Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. You know, Michael Douglas has dominated the news lines quite a bit here in recent weeks with, of course, most recently the announcement of his separation. It seems like maybe almost still too strong of a word. Taking a time out, you know, they're going to their separate corners. I don't know exactly what that looks like. Rarely, of course, do I ever see those lead to them getting back together, though, in our modern world. Yes, Sigmund.
They may just have to live in separate wings of their home
mansion
and never see each other.
Again. So, you know, it'd be so much more convenient to making it public. But speaking of public, you know, Michael Douglas made public the fact that he had throat cancer, very advanced throat cancer at that. And he said that it had something to do with oral sex, is what he talked about. And then, I wonder if I should have talked to my wife before I'd said that first, you know, and then he kind of retracted that. But the reality is that is a problem, and that's a problem that a lot of people aren't aware of. And we've got a dentist here today, Dr. Emily Graham, who has become really very well versed in this area and has worked in the technology in this area, and was delighted to get her on the program to talk a little bit about this. So welcome to the show, Dr. Graham.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Kind of give us a little bit of information both about yourself, your background, and your practice.
Well, I practice in Spring, Texas, and I've been a dentist, I guess, over 21 years. I'd have to add it up, but it's something like that. Went to dental school here in Houston, down in the medical center. I have a general dentistry practice. I see children up through your grandma and grandpa, and do all aspects of dentistry. I have several doctors that work with me there too, so we're able to meet the needs of all of our community.
Yeah, very good, very good. And how long have you been in that area?
I've been in that area about 19 years.
19 years. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fantastic. So, you know, all of a sudden, though, oral cancer has become a much more common phenomenon here, or at least we're hearing more about it. You know, people, I think, are being more forthright, particularly people in prominent positions, to talk about it just to raise the awareness, whereas in the past people were more secluded and secretive about it. I think it's good that people are more communicative about it. Are we seeing more oral cancer, or are we just seeing more awareness of it?
I think both. Mm-hmm. I think the number of oral cancer cases has greatly increased over the past 10 to 15 years, and I think we're becoming more aware of it because it's no longer the over 55-year-old male that has done tobacco and alcohol for years and years. Now it's hitting predominant, still male, but in the young population, males and females. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it in college-age students, under 30 years old, over 30 years old. So we're just hitting, because that's become such a bigger number, that's why the awareness has become much, much more.
Yeah. So I'm over at your site, txbestdentist.com. That's txbestdentist.com. And if you're, when you're listening to the program, you look under services, look under that oral cancer screenings is an interesting section you've got there where it talks about here that 25% of oral cancer victims have no lifestyle risk factors at all, which I think is shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that.
That the HPV virus is what's causing this great increase. So HPV virus has over 150 strains of it, but the number 16 and number 18 are the ones that are being associated with oral cancer. So
and it's also associated with oral sex.
Exactly,
in the case
that's
of oral
right.
cancer.
Skin-to-skin contact and even open mouth.
So actually, this could be to a certain extent lifestyle related, but it's more subtle.
Very.
Yeah.
And a lot of people pass the HPV virus through their body within 2 to 3 years, never have any consequences of having it in their body at all. But this year...
It just moves along, huh?
It just moves along. That's
Thank
right.
God.
So estimated in 2013, they're thinking around 7,000 deaths will be associated with HPV virus.
Wow.
This year alone. That's just an estimation.
And what percentage of those are going to be from the oral?
75 to 85%.
Really? That's shocking.
I know
a
it.
shocking number.
I know
That's
it.
unbelievable. And so, you know, there's I saw a cartoon decades ago, so I'm going to probably butcher it, but it was a phenomenal cartoon where it shows this kid reading a newspaper, and it talks about, the rise of single mothers and the rise of sexually transmitted diseases. And so the kid says to his grandpa, "Hey, Grandpa, what did you do to avoid unwanted pregnancies and STDs?" And he said, "I wore a wedding ring."
Yep, you got it.
So, this idea of good old-fashioned, staying with that one spouse, monogamy can go a long way to help prevent a lot of this. Behaving properly, this helps a lot.
You're exactly right. And they even have done studies where if you have increased number of sexual partners, of course, your chances of getting it is much greater as well.
Right.
So they've
and in a way, you're having relations with all of their partners.
That's right.
Ew.
You got it.
Think about that. Ew.
That's right.
So that's not pretty at all. My understanding is you got some pretty advanced techniques that you're using.
That's right.
Talk about that.
There are 2 ways that can be checked. I really recommend every adult 18 or over to get an oral cancer screen at least once a year by their dentist. And if your dentist doesn't do it, you need to go to a dentist at least just for that examination. They should be feeling with their fingers outside of your neck and inside your mouth. Looking around at the tissues in your mouth and then using an autofluorescent light and shining it around in the mouth, because tissue in the mouth can look normal, but then when you put this light on it, you can see there's abnormal cells growing.
Abnormalities, yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Also, another way is you can do a saliva test, which can check to see if you are actually carrying the HPV virus. And it's just real easy. You swish with some salty kind of solution. You spit into like a little test tube. The doctor sends it off, and they get a confidential report back to see if you're carrying it and what strain of the HPV virus. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I would recommend is if you're having like any type of a chronic sore throat way back in the back of your throat, because the dentist cannot get all the way back. They can get to the back of the tongue, but they can't get down the throat like an ENT doctor could. But if you're having this sore throat you can't quite get rid of, and you've checked allergies and all of that, I'd get it a little thorough more check, because that's one of the most common areas for it to show up.
Yeah. So in the Michael Douglas story, of course, there was this when he said that, there was a lot of wondering, did he get that from his wife? And the reality is that he has been a alley cat for years. So there's a high likelihood that he got it anywhere but his wife, to be perfectly honest with you. But, the reality, but that is part of the morality tale, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, and again, I'm speaking of his reputation. Michael Douglas has declined all of my invitations to hang out together as of this moment. But, that is part of his reputation. That's part of his own admitted reputation, historically. And so, but there is certainly a morality tale there that people need to be careful. Not only do they not need to be checking themselves on a regular basis, either through a dentist or a ears, nose, and throat specialist, but they also need to be doing it, living a lifestyle that helps prevent that, and not just in the obvious alcohol usage and tobacco usage and those type of things, but the less obvious as well.
I'd agree. And I'd also give a little just heads up to, they're promoting a lot Gardasil or vaccinations to prevent HPV virus in the young middle school age kids. They have not proven that's going to prevent the oral cancer HPV 16 and 18 yet.
Yeah.
So they've been able to
They're still
associate
testing
it.
for
That's
that.
right, with cervical
But
cancer.
it probably wouldn't hurt.
That's right. It wouldn't hurt. It's a parent's call. But if you think, Mom, you've completely preventing your child from getting it, it hasn't been proven yet.
Yeah, and I've got issues about that go beyond this segment, if you will.
Right.
I don't want to send that message to my kid, that we're taking care of this in order for you, ...
Right.
So, but again, it's always something to put in consideration. Give them the shot, but don't tell them what it's for. But anyway, Texas Best Dentist, txbestdentist.com, and really an interesting segment, and I really appreciate the time that you gave us today to learn more about this. Dr. Emily Graham.
Well, thank you for having me, Kevin.
Great information. All right, when we come back, as always, we're going to have much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.